My name is Tammy Fleischer. I'm 35 years old, and for as long as I can remember, being responsible has been my whole personality. I work as a project coordinator for a hospital supply vendor, which means my job is to fix chaos before anyone notices it exists. I pay my rent 3 days early because late fees make my skin itch. I keep color-coded spreadsheets for groceries, utilities, and now, Christmas. Every December, I tell myself this time, I won't overdo it. And every year, I do. This year, though, I convinced myself it was a one-time splurge. Just one Christmas where I'd go big and finally earn that rare, uncomplicated pride from my parents. My younger sister Jenna is 32, the kind of person who calls herself between opportunities. Translation: she hasn't kept a job longer than a latte punch card. Her husband Kyle is a contractor who's always about to land something big. Somehow that something big has been coming for the last 7 years. They have 3 kids under 9, sweet, loud, sticky little whirlwinds who have learned that Aunt Tammy always brings the good stuff. I have one child, Max, my 8-year-old son, who sleeps with a flashlight under his pillow and calls thunderstorms sky drums. He's curious, gentle, and asks questions that twist right into my heart, like the time he looked at Jenna's pile of toys last year and whispered, "Mom, how come they always get more?" That's when I promised myself this year would be even, fair, organized, my specialty. The spreadsheet was a masterpiece. Tabs for each child, columns for price, coupon code, and shipping date. The running total climbed like a reluctant sunrise. I told myself it wasn't about competition. It was about love expressed in ribbons and batteries. But deep down, I knew the truth. Generosity had become my last attempt at belonging. Because in my family, approval was always a group project, one where I did all the work and everyone else took credit. Christmas Eve found us driving through that kind of cold that turns the sky silver. Frost stitched the shrubs in my parents' yard, the same split-level ranch where every holiday had played out like reruns. The ceramic village on the piano glowed from within, plastic snow frozen forever in place. Inside, Mom was fussing over a ham that looked like it could feed a village. Dad was in the garage wearing his world's okayest grandpa sweatshirt, humming along to classic rock, beer in hand. Predictable, familiar, like muscle memory. Jenna arrived late, trailing vanilla body spray and laughter too loud to be genuine. "Traffic was insane," she said. "We almost died." She always said that like it was a punchline. Mom's eyes widened at the mountain of boxes I carried in. "Oh, Tammy, you brought way too much." "Deals," I answered automatically. It was the script we all knew. Jenna's gaze swept over the pile, her mouth curling into that half-smile, half-assessment I'd come to dread. "Wow," she said softly. "They're going to lose their minds." She said it like she was already taking credit for it. We did our rituals, mismatched mugs of hot chocolate, Dad's yearly debate about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It is, apparently, and my mom insisting I take more ham even though we hadn't eaten dinner yet. Max fell asleep on the couch, clutching a candy cane like a tiny flagpole. I carried him to the guest room, the one with the lumpy mattress and the yellow quilt that used to belong to Grandma, and tucked him in. When the house quieted, I lingered by the tree, the glow of the lights reflected in the window, doubling the scene like there was a second world just outside the glass, a better one. I took a picture. Maybe it was habit, or maybe I already knew I'd need proof of what came next. The boxes looked beautiful, stacked neatly, each one wrapped with real ribbon, each tag written in block letters, from Aunt Tammy. I told myself, this is it. This is why you do it. Tomorrow will make it all worth it. The next morning arrived like clockwork. Dad jingling those old sleigh bells from the kitchen drawer, kids thundering down the hall, Mom pretending to be surprised that Christmas had somehow landed on the same day again. The living room filled with laughter, paper tearing, sugar in the air. For a moment, I let myself believe it was perfect, until Max tore open his first gift. A small box, soft. He looked up, smiling, hopeful. Inside was a single black pen, the kind that comes 5 for $3 at the pharmacy. He turned it over in his hands, confused. "Is there something hidden inside?" Dad chuckled. "Budget was tight this year, buddy." That phrase, budget was tight, landed in my stomach like ice water. Max tried to make it a joke. Was I bad this year? His voice wobbled. Something inside me didn't explode. It unzipped. Quiet, clean, final. Open the next one, I said brightly. Too brightly. He did. Socks, gray, 2 sizes too big. Across the room, Jenna's kids shrieked. Ella hugged a tablet. Liam waved his Lego set. Piper cradled a dollhouse that cost more than my car insurance. Jenna filmed it all, narrating, "Best Christmas ever." Her phone never once pointed toward my son. Mom adjusted a garland that didn't need adjusting. Dad shrugged, as if he'd explained a weather event. "We had to prioritize, Tammy, you understand?" I didn't. Max clicked his pen. Click, click. The sound was soft but relentless. Jenna leaned toward me, whispering like she was being kind. "Don't make this a thing, Tammy. It's Christmas." But the thing had already been made, and I'd been financing it for years. As wrapping paper piled on the carpet, my mind rewound. Last year, the year before, every time I'd filled their gaps because kids shouldn't go without. Every emergency became my responsibility. When Kyle's boss delayed his paycheck, me. When daycare raised prices, me. When the minivan broke down, me again. Mom used to say, "You're so reliable, honey. We're lucky to have you." Dad's version, "Family takes care of family." Translation, "Tammy takes care of everyone." I smiled through it, told myself it was love, not leverage. But watching my son turn a cheap pen between his fingers while his cousins screamed over gifts I'd bought, something inside me changed shape. That zipper I'd felt earlier, it didn't close again. It kept opening, wider and wider, until all the quiet resentment I'd packed away began to breathe. After the chaos settled, I helped Mom clear the plates, my hands steady, though my pulse wasn't. I could hear Jenna laughing in the next room, bragging about the gifts like she'd chosen everyone herself. Max sat near the window, drawing on a scrap of wrapping paper with his new pen. He didn't pout. He didn't ask for more. He just drew a house, with a tree outside and 2 stick figures holding hands. He labeled them Mom and me. And that's when I decided something I'd never dared before. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just make lists. I'd make things right. That night, after everyone went to bed, I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling fan that clicked like a slow metronome. Max was curled up beside me, his little hand still holding that pen. It wasn't about the pen. It was about the look on his face, the confusion, the quiet attempt to stay polite, the way he'd asked, "Was I bad this year?" as if kindness were something you could earn or lose. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But mostly, I wanted to understand how I had ended up here, again, the giver, the fixer, the fool. At dawn, I got up before anyone else. I made coffee in silence, listening to the house creak like it was keeping secrets. The tree lights were still glowing faintly, the room scattered with crumpled wrapping paper, toy boxes, and ribbons that didn't belong to my son. I could still hear my dad's voice from yesterday echoing in my head. "We had to prioritize, Tammy, you understand." And my mom's soft, practiced hush. "Sweetheart, don't make this into a scene. It's Christmas." As if being quiet about unfairness was a virtue, as if silence was grace. But silence was how I'd been erased. As I cleaned up, I found a tag from one of the presents I'd bought. A dollhouse, the one Piper had squealed over. My handwriting. From Aunt Tammy. But when I'd glanced at Jenna's social media earlier that morning, there it was. A post with the caption, "We did good this year, had blessed mom life." No mention of me, not even once. My phone buzzed, another message in the family group chat. Dad had sent a blurry photo of the kids under the tree. "Great morning, so much joy." Then Mom added, "We're lucky to have each other." I stared at the screen, the words blurring. Lucky. That word had always been a weapon in our house. They used it to shame gratitude out of me, to remind me that love was conditional, and I should be thankful to have any at all. I thought back to the first time this cycle began. It was 7 years ago. Jenna had called me crying in a strip mall parking lot. "I don't know how we're going to afford Christmas this year," she sobbed. "Kyle's hours got cut. The kids are going to wake up to nothing." And I'd said the 6 words that became my curse. "I'll handle it this year, Jenna." That night, I went to Target with my credit card and a list I'd made on a napkin. I filled a cart so heavy the wheels squeaked. The next morning, Mom texted, "You're a lifesaver. Jenna is so lucky to have you." Lucky. There it was again. And from that moment on, it was understood, not discussed, not agreed upon, just understood that I'd cover Christmas every year. Then came birthdays, school supplies. Just because toys, ballet shoes, soccer fees, the van repair, the daycare hike, the rent deposit. Every time I hesitated, Mom had a reason. Consistency matters for kids. You make good money, honey. They're trying their best. And when I'd ask for help in return, the line always changed to guilt. Why bring money into everything? You're being so cold, Tammy. In our family, love meant guilt wrapped in a ribbon. By the time Max started school, I was tired, but not just physically. I was tired of being the reliable one, the one they praised when it suited them and ignored when it didn't. That spring, I told Jenna I couldn't pay for her kids' swim lessons. 3 words: I can't this time. She responded with 10 messages in 3 minutes. It's only $300. They'll drown without lessons. You're unbelievable, Mom called, voice tight with disapproval. Tammy, don't be cruel. You know how kids are. I wanted to shout, they're not my kids. But instead, I bit my tongue and wired the money. I remember Daniel, my boyfriend, asking me once why I always looked exhausted after visiting my parents. He said it gently while washing dishes at my apartment. They drain you, Tammy, every time. I laughed it off. It's family. That's just how it is. But deep down, I knew he was right. He'd grown up different, simpler, steadier. When he said family, he meant people who lifted each other up, not the kind who siphoned until you had nothing left. Still, I couldn't bring myself to stop, because if I stopped helping, what was left of me? By November, I'd already bought almost everything for Jenna's kids again. The tablet, the art set, the sneakers with the light-up soles. Meanwhile, Max had been saving his allowance for a second-hand bike he'd seen online. We found one, bright orange, with chipped paint and promise. We spent a weekend sanding and repainting it together. He named it Tiger. When Jenna saw the bike later, she laughed. Ah, vintage, she said, then turned to her kids. Not everyone gets new everything. She meant it as a joke. It wasn't funny. The little cuts piled up. The photos she posted of my gifts captioned, "We worked so hard for this Christmas." The labels in my handwriting sitting on Mom's counter, from Santa, pretending to come from them. And the comment from her daughter Ella that hit like a blade. Mom says you buy us stuff because you don't have anyone else. That night, I'd stood in the shower, the water running cold, long after I'd stopped feeling it. I promised myself this would be the last time. I wouldn't spend another Christmas proving my worth to people who never saw me as equal. I meant it until I didn't. Because a week before Christmas, Jenna texted, "We got Max something nice this year, by the way." And for a moment, I believed her. I thought maybe they'd changed, that maybe this time would be fair. But as I watched my son turning that black pen over in his hands, I knew the truth. It had never been about fairness. It was about hierarchy. And in their eyes, I'd always be the one holding the camera, not the one worth filming. When everyone had gone to bed, I went to the bathroom, locked the door, and braced my hands against the sink. My reflection looked like a stranger. Tired eyes, lips pressed tight, a woman caught between anger and grief. I took out my phone. Photo of the tree. Photo of the boxes with my handwriting, screenshot of Jenna's caption, and then the note in my phone labeled Christmas totals. Every purchase, every dollar, every name that wasn't mine. I didn't cry, I didn't rage. I just stared at the numbers until my chest stopped aching and something inside me settled. Not peace, not forgiveness, just clarity. Tomorrow, I decided, I'd make things even. Not out of spite, out of principle. I looked at Max asleep under the quilt, his hand resting over that pen, and whispered, "Next year it's different, I promise." But promises weren't enough anymore. It had to start now. By morning, I was done pretending. Not angry, not hysterical, just finished. Mom was humming in the kitchen, the smell of cinnamon rolls floating through the house, like the world hadn't cracked open 12 hours earlier. Dad was already in his recliner, scrolling the news on his tablet, completely at peace in the comfort of his selective blindness. I poured myself coffee and watched Jenna's kids sprint down the hallway, chasing each other with their new toys, every single one I'd paid for. Max followed quietly behind them, his socks sliding on the hardwood, the pen still in his pocket. "Morning, sweetheart," Mom said without looking up. "Morning," I answered, my voice flat, deliberate. I knew then that the only way to stop being the problem solver was to let them see the problem they'd created. Jenna appeared in this kitchen doorway, messy hair in a bun, holding her phone like a trophy. "Everyone loves the Christmas post," she chirped. 100 likes in an hour. I sipped my coffee. "Yeah? Did you tag me this time?" She blinked. "Why would I?" I stared at her for a beat too long. "Because half of what's in that picture came from my paycheck." Her smile faltered. Tammy, don't start. It's Christmas weekend. Just don't make this a thing. There it was again. That sentence she always used when I tried to draw a line. Don't make this a thing. Translation. Keep swallowing it so I don't have to feel bad. But I wasn't swallowing anything this year. I went back upstairs to pack our bags. As I folded Max's clothes, I noticed how carefully he'd placed that pen on the nightstand beside his pillow, like he was trying to treasure what little he'd been given. That's what broke me. Not the cheapness, but his effort to make it meaningful. I brushed his hair back gently as he stirred awake. Morning, buddy. Morning, Mom, he murmured. Do we have to stay long today? No, I said softly. Not long at all. He smiled, relieved, and that was enough confirmation for me. I loaded the car with quiet precision, our overnight bags, Max's coat, and one empty tote bag I brought for a reason I hadn't admitted even to myself yet. Inside, laughter and music filled the house, the sound of a family celebrating together. Except it wasn't together, not really. It was built on someone's silence, mine. While they all crowded around the breakfast table, I stood by the tree again, studying the tags on the gifts still left unopened. From Aunt Tammy, over and over, my handwriting, my ribbons, my money. A calm, dangerous thought settled in. If it's from me, it stays with me. I could almost hear Daniel's voice in my head, low and steady. You teach people how to treat you, Tammy. He'd said that a few months back when I told him I was covering Jenna's rent. Again. He didn't argue. He just asked, what are you teaching them right now? That question haunted me then. Now it was my compass. Jenna caught me staring at the tree. What are you doing? She asked, cautious now. Tidying, I said. She frowned. Mom spent hours arranging those gifts. Yeah, and I spent months paying for them. Her face twisted. Are you serious right now? Completely. I lifted one box, a dollhouse. Piper's favorite, the one that had made her squeal yesterday. I read the tag aloud. From Aunt Tammy. You see that, right? She rolled her eyes. So what? They're for the kids. You can't take them back. They're mine, I said calmly, and I'm done being invisible. Dad looked up from his chair, finally noticing the tension. What's all this? Tammy's having a moment, Jenna muttered. I met his eyes. No, Dad, I'm having clarity. Mom wiped her hands on a towel, her voice taking on that soft, diplomatic tone she reserved for situations she wanted to control. Honey, please, this isn't necessary. Let's just enjoy the weekend. I can't enjoy watching my son be humiliated while his cousins unwrap my generosity. Silence fell. Even the kids stopped moving. Then Dad spoke, the way he always did when he wanted to end a conversation without resolving it. Family takes care of family. That's how it's always been. Exactly, I said. And I've been the only one doing it. Jenna's voice sharpened. You're being selfish, Tammy. This isn't you. You're right, I said steady. This isn't me. Not anymore. And I started carrying out the boxes, one by one, methodical, calm. Each thud of the car trunk felt like another stitch coming undone. Tammy, Mom cried. You can't just take Christmas away from the kids. I'm not taking it away. I'm taking back what's mine. Dad stood, his face red now. Don't be petty. I'm being fair. Fair? Jenna laughed, incredulous. You're embarrassing yourself. I stopped in the doorway, holding the last box. You embarrassed me years ago. You just got used to me staying quiet about it. Max peeked around the corner, eyes wide. Mom, what's happening? I crouched to his level. We're going home soon, honey. But first, can you help me check the names on these tags? He nodded eagerly, like it was a game. Look for ones that say Aunt Tammy. He scanned the boxes carefully, reading each label, bringing them to me with the focus of a little soldier. His small hands placed the last gift in my arms, whispering, This one, too. Good job, I said. Now grab your coat. When I walked back inside for the final time, my parents stood frozen, Jenna's phone still in her hand, recording. Of course she was. You're actually taking them? She snapped. You'll regret this. I already regret every year I didn't. Dad's voice thundered. If you walk out that door, don't come back. I looked him straight in the eye. If you mean that, say it again, because this time I'll believe you. He didn't. I turned and stepped out into the cold, the air sharp against my cheeks. Max buckled himself in the back seat, quiet but calm. I started the car, the heat blasting against the silence. He looked up at me and asked softly, Can we go get pancakes? I smiled, the first real one in days. Yeah, buddy, we can get pancakes. At the diner, the waitress poured syrup like liquid gold while Max drew treasure maps on the napkin. Our plates steamed between us. For the first time, I felt light, not happy, but unburdened. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Family group chat. Mom, bring the gifts back. We can talk about this. Dad, you embarrassed us in front of the kids. Jenna, you ruined Christmas. Kyle, this is theft. And then the one that sealed it. Mom again. You only have one child, Tammy. Be generous. I stared at the message until the words lost meaning. Then I flipped the phone over and whispered to Max. We already are. The drive home felt like exhaling after years of holding my breath. The road was quiet, empty, except for the hum of the heater and the soft tap of Max's pen against the window. He wasn't upset. He wasn't confused. He was just peaceful. And that, more than anything, told me I'd done the right thing. When we reached our apartment, I carried the boxes inside one by one. The sound of tape scraping and cardboard bumping the floor echoed in the stillness. Each box looked heavier than it was, as if it carried not just toys, but the weight of every favor I'd done for my family. Favors that had become expectations. Expectations that had become entitlement. Max helped me unwrap a few. He didn't ask who they were for. He didn't gloat. He just wanted to help. Should we keep these? He asked, holding up a Lego box. Some of them, I said, and we'll find good homes for the rest. He nodded, satisfied, and went back to building little towers with the empty boxes. I took a photo of the scene, the small tree in our living room, the soft glow of the lights, the neat rows of retrieved gifts under it. Then I opened my phone and sent the photo to the family group chat. Message, gifts retrieved. We're fine. Within seconds, the replies poured in. Mom, Tammy, you need to bring those back. Think of the children. Jenna, are you insane? You can't just steal Christmas. Dad, if you don't fix this, don't bother showing up next year. Kyle, you can't post that. It makes us look bad. I typed back only one thing. Then maybe you should have treated us better. And I left the chat. I made hot chocolate for Max and me. Extra marshmallows for both of us. He sat cross-legged on the rug, his cheeks pink from the cold. Mom? He asked. Yeah? Were they mad? A little, I said truthfully. Did we do something wrong? No, sweetheart, I said softly. We just stopped pretending. He thought about that, then nodded like he understood more than I expected. Can we still have Christmas? I smiled. We already are. Later that night, after Max fell asleep on the couch, my phone rang. Daniel. I hadn't told him everything yet, just that I was spending Christmas with my family and that it might be tense. When I answered, his voice was warm, familiar. Hey, Tammy, you okay? I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Yeah, better than I've been in a long time. He paused, reading between the lines. Something happened, didn't it? I gave a quiet laugh. You could say that. I took back every gift I bought them. Everyone. Every single one. He didn't sound shocked, just calm, steady. Good, he said simply. That word hit me harder than I expected. Not judgment, not pity, just good. I keep thinking maybe I went too far, I admitted. You didn't, he said. You drew a line. They're just angry they can see it now. I walked to the window, looking out at the snow dusting the streetlights, the world soft and untouched. For years, I thought standing up for myself would mean losing everyone, but in that moment, I realized I'd never really had them. Not in the way that mattered. I had given everything, money, time, patience, to a version of family built on guilt. Now, for the first time, I felt something close to freedom. I think they'll hate me for this, I said. Daniel's voice was gentle. Then they'll have to hate you from a distance. That's their choice, not yours. I smiled through tears I hadn't meant to shed. Thank you, I whispered. For what? For not making me feel crazy. You're not crazy, Tammy, he said. You just stopped funding their denial. The next morning, I woke to sunlight spilling through the blinds. The house smelled like cocoa and pine. Max was sitting by the tree, humming, his small hands carefully rewrapping some of the boxes in new paper we'd bought months ago. He held one up when he saw me. This one's for the shelter kids, right? That's right, I said, sitting beside him. You're pretty amazing, you know that? He shrugged shyly. I just want to share. That word, share, felt like an echo of everything I'd been doing wrong. I'd been sharing my energy with people who only took. But this? Sharing with purpose, with choice, that was different. Around noon, there was a knock at the door, a hard, persistent one. I froze. Max looked up. Mom? It's okay, I said, though I wasn't sure yet if it was. When I opened the door, the cold hit first, then Jenna. She stood on the porch, hair messy, voice sharp. Where are the gifts, Tammy? Inside, I said evenly. Safe. You ruined Christmas for my kids, she snapped. Do you even hear yourself? You took everything back. I didn't ruin anything, I said. I corrected it. It's not about who bought what, she shouted. It always has been, I replied. You just liked it better when I stayed quiet about it. Mom's voice floated from behind her. Tammy, please, bring them back. We can sort this out as a family. Sorting it out as a family, I said slowly, is how we got here in the first place. Jenna scoffed. You're unbelievable. You know what? We got Max something nice too. Forgot it at home. What was it? I asked. Her mouth twitched. A surprise. Sure it was, I said. Dad appeared at the edge of the yard, arms crossed. You always think money solves everything. No, I said, my voice steady. You've always asked me to solve everything with money. Jenna's expression hardened. I'll tell the kids you stole Christmas. You already tell them Santa's generous when I am, I said. At least this time, the truth matches the story. Her face went red. You're cruel. I'm clear, I said. Then I stepped back, closing the door gently but firmly. The sound of the latch sliding home felt final. Inside, Max was holding the mug of cocoa I'd made earlier, both hands wrapped around it. Was that Aunt Jenna? He asked. Yeah. She mad? A little. He nodded thoughtfully, then smiled. That's okay. We have our own Christmas. We sure do, I said, kneeling beside him. Outside, I could still hear muffled voices, the crunch of boots in the snow, but inside was peace. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like an outsider in my own life. That night, Max drew another picture. Our apartment, a tree in the window, 2 stick figures holding hands. He labeled them again, Mom and me. Underneath, he wrote in shaky letters, Our Real Christmas. And in the corner of the page, he'd drawn a tiny X. X marks the spot, he said proudly. What's there? I asked. He smiled. Where we're happy. I couldn't have said it better. By the 3rd day after Christmas, the noise from my family's group chat had gone quiet. No new guilt texts, no dramatic phone calls, just silence. It was the first gift they'd ever given me, even if they didn't mean to. The apartment was warm and still. The retrieved gift sat neatly under our smaller tree, now rewrapped in brown paper and simple red string. Nothing fancy, but honest. I'd written new labels in clean handwriting. From Tammy, from Mom and Max, from us. Some were marked to donate to the shelter, others to give to Max's school's charity drive. It felt right, like all the tangled years of resentment had finally been unwrapped and folded neatly away. That afternoon, Daniel stopped by. He knocked softly, holding 2 takeout coffees and a paper bag that smelled like cinnamon rolls. Morning, he said, smiling as he stepped in. You look lighter. I feel it, I admitted. Like my life lost 10 pounds of guilt. He grinned. I saw the group post. Oh, God, I groaned. What did they say now? Just the usual, drama. But don't worry, no one believes Jenna's version for long. I arched a brow. And what's her version this time? That you showed up at Christmas with a spite list and stole from children. I laughed, genuinely. That's creative, I'll give her that. You didn't need to justify it, Daniel said softly, setting the bag down. But you finally did something for yourself. That's not theft. That's balance. He said it so simply I almost cried. Max came running out from his room waving a piece of paper. Daniel, look! I drew our new Christmas tree. Daniel crouched beside him, studying the drawing. Crooked star, bright ornaments, 2 stick figures, and 1 orange bike. Tiger made the picture too, Daniel said with a grin. Max nodded proudly. He's part of the family. Something about that moment, the warmth, the calm, the quiet laughter, felt sacred. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't loud, but it was ours. That evening, I sat by the window with my coffee, watching snow drift across the streetlights. For years, I thought love was about sacrifice, that the more I gave, the more people would see my worth. But I'd learned something this Christmas. You can't buy respect from people who depend on your silence, and you can't call it love when the only one emptying their wallet or their soul is you. The next morning, a letter slid under my door. No knock, no name, just a folded piece of stationery that smelled faintly of my mom's perfume. Inside, Tammy, we didn't handle things right. I know you were hurt. Maybe we've leaned on you too much. Please don't shut us out forever. Love, Mom. There was a small PS at the bottom. Jenna cried all night. I sat there reading it 3 times. Not because I was touched, but because I wanted to feel something. But I didn't. Not anger, not relief, just distance. The kind that comes when you finally stop begging for apologies you've already outgrown. That night, I didn't write back. I didn't call. Instead, I took Max to the shelter drop-off. He helped carry the boxes, grinning the whole way. The volunteers thanked us, but the only words I heard were his. Mom, this feels good. It did. We drove home through the quiet streets, our little tree glowing through the apartment window as we pulled in. Max ran ahead, laughing, his orange bike parked under the stairs like a guardian. When bedtime came, he crawled into my lap, half asleep, and whispered, Mom, do you think Grandma's mad? I smoothed his hair and said, Maybe, but sometimes people get mad when they realize they can't use you anymore. He yawned, eyes drooping. That's weird. It is, I said, but it's okay. He smiled faintly. Next year, can we make cookies for just us? Just us, I promised. After he fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table, the soft hum of the fridge, the only sound. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for choosing peace. I didn't feel selfish. I felt home. I glanced at the photo on my phone, the one from that chaotic Christmas Eve at my parents' house. The mountain of gifts, the perfect tree, the illusion of joy. Then I swiped to the photo from our living room now. Smaller tree, fewer gifts, more truth. And in that contrast, I finally saw the difference between giving and surrendering. I texted Daniel, Pancakes again tomorrow? He replied instantly, Always. Bring Max, my treat this time. I smiled, locked my phone, and looked at our tree one last time before turning out the light. The air felt lighter somehow, as if the ghosts of every guilt trip had finally left the room. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd end up the woman who took back Christmas, I would have laughed. But now I know it was never about revenge. It was about teaching people how to treat me, about showing my son that love without respect is just a chain with a ribbon on it. As I drifted to sleep, one final thought settled in my mind. Quiet, sure, steady. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're instructions for respect. And this time, I intended to follow them.